Περνάμε στον επόμενο ομιλητή μας, τον Chris Gibbins, ο οποίος είναι Chief Experience Officer and Creative CX. Ο Chris έχει πάνω από 20 χρόνια εμπειρία στο χώρο. Έχει δουλέψει πάρα πολύ με UX Research, Data Analysis, A-B Testing και πολλές φορές μας λέει ότι κάνουμε optimize και βελτιώνουμε πράγματα τα οποία δεν θα έπρεπε να βελτιώνουμε. Ο τίτλος της ομιλίας του, End-to-End Horizontal Experimentation for Maximum Impact. Chris, sorry it was all Greek to you, but thank you.
As an introduction, I live in a small place called Carshalton, which is on the southern side of London, so on the outskirts. It's a really lovely place to live. And most days, these days, I commute to work and I go northwards to London. And because of the wonderful technology we have these days, all I have to worry about is tapping my phone on the Oyster card reader. Really easy. Until I had a really important meeting the other day in Dorking, which is another beautiful little town in England, but it's south of London. Okay, so I don't know if anyone's been on the tube recently in London. Yeah? Cool. And the Oyster card only works when you're going into London. It doesn't work outside of London. But in typical fashion, I left myself about 5 minutes to get the train from my house. And as you can see, it's 7 minutes to the station. So 2 minutes into my journey, I'm thinking, this is all fantastic. I'm going to get the train just right. And then, of course, I realized that I think I need to get a train ticket really quickly. And I've got basically 3 minutes to buy a train ticket and tap in with the new train ticket to get my train. Thankfully, we've got Trainline. But there are so many other travel websites which are a bit not so good, that Trainline came to my savior. And whilst I was running for the train at this point, so running with Trainline on my mobile phone, trying to add in the location, the destination, also choose the right ticket type, I could do all of that in 2 minutes. I managed to achieve the whole thing and pay for a train ticket just in time to get the barcode on my phone, put the barcode on the actual train, on the gates, get in and jump on a train. Isn't that amazing? But if you think about how many travel sites you've used recently, do you really think they would pass the running test? Could you really buy those things while you're running like this and avoid all those absolutely ridiculous pop-ups and everything else? Do you think you could do that? Honestly. And that's the world we live in, right? So I've almost got this new running test. It's my benchmark these days for how good mobile experience is. And I apply it to whatever I do. Although there is a word of warning, it's a little bit dangerous when you're trying to use the internet, when running, when crossing roads. So try to keep it to a safe park or somewhere a little bit safe. Why isn't everything else like this? Why isn't everything else so easy out there? So many of these issues we've been talking about, well, I have, because I've been around a bit, for 15 years now, really, to be honest. I'm just going to show you a few random ideas, random examples of those that definitely would not pass the running test. And actually, I'm not picking on any one brand in particular, but one of the biggest problems is just the pop-up overload. I know we have cookies. We have to accept them. But look at this, we've got like several levels of pop-up. We've got an about cookies here, we've got this other open the app, because he wanted to open the app here. And actually, as you can see here, what I'm trying to do is to accept the cookies, but I can't, because there's a pop-up stopping me from actually getting to the accept button on the cookie accept. When you see it move, finally, I managed to figure out that clicking the top pop-up reveals the accept, and then you get another pop-up, and then you can finally get to the homepage of Levi's. I haven't even started to think about the jeans that I wanted. I've actually even forgotten about the jeans that I was thinking of buying. It's absolutely crazy, and it's so annoying. And there are many other issues. One of them actually that isn't an issue, but another missed opportunity, is for treating every user the same. So treating every user the same, even if they're coming from Google Shopping, which you're spending tons of money on, and they're landing on your PDPs, and then you're wondering why on earth you have such a high bounce rate. It's not this journey, which is another journey, which is from existing customers on their third visit looking for genes. And we treat all these people exactly the same when they're on your mobile site. When you get to the PDPs, they are exactly the same or identical and further forward. And yet some of the biggest improvements we've made to our clients' websites over the years have been treating them differently, have been, for example, if someone's already been looking for a certain type of genes, when they come to the next session, we present them with a pick up where you left off type of thing, so they can go straight into searching again for the same pair of genes. And when they're coming from Google Shopping, we provide them with alternatives, because when they arrive on the PDP, they're still only browsing at that point, and you don't want them to skip back. You don't want to use Google as the PLP all the time instead. You want to keep them on the site, show alternatives. So therefore, you need to promote those alternatives on the PDP. And suddenly, this can affect the bottom line massively. There are many other issues. This is a bugbear of mine, the date of birth. Why did anybody think of using a calendar for date of birth unless you're like 10 years old and you don't have to go back very far, honestly? And this is my experience from an insurer. And the crazy thing is, this is after I registered for insurance. And they texted me the link to register, which means they're promoting the mobile site. And then they have a date of birth picker like this that I can't even get to, because it's like jump into the bottom and jump into the top. And oh my God, you're talking 15 minutes of my life wasted just to enter a date of birth. What on earth is going on? And this is completely different. This is the real world situation. This isn't digital. Oh, it's digital in kiosks. This is when you have to weigh your bananas, because obviously weighing bananas is super important. When I was queuing for the user scales and checkout, every user in front was missing this little print button because the contrast is so terrible. So it's an accessibility problem. And what I love is that the staff in that M&S store had actually stuck on a bit of yellow tape and drew an arrow on it, because when I spoke to the staff, it said everybody misses. So we thought we would do this. So it's like the perfect example of a Band-Aid solution to a digital problem, which I absolutely love. The ingenuity, it's fantastic. Something else. This is very close to my heart, because this is where I get my lunch. Itsu. It's really good. Well, most of it is really good. Apart from, you do end up with very long queues in Itsu. And I wonder why that is. It's because of their damn kiosk machines. Because you go into Itsu, you go to the shelf to pick up your sushi, which is what you would normally just kind of scan and buy. Then you have to go to a kiosk, and if it's more than one thing, say sushi and a drink in this occasion, go to the kiosk. Then you have to use the navigation to find the items again in the kiosk, but you have them in your hand. Why on earth you don't scan them and then and just pay for them? You have to go and find them. So all these users are spending ages in the navigation trying to find every item, but they have it in their hand already. So therefore they have tons of queues, and therefore loads of people don't go there anymore because the queues are too long. It's just ridiculous. And if you looked at if only you had a barcode, a scanner, I mean, goodness, they've been invented quite a long time ago, haven't they? Then you'd cut out like 3 steps and be able to get your food quicker and go home less hungry. So yeah, so many things. And I'm going to finish on some of the worst parts of a journey, which are finish the examples, which are actually treats people when they want to end a subscription with you a bit better. Because, there's a really good chance that you'll get them back as a customer. And if you think about the cost of customer acquisition, how much it costs you, you need to focus on retention, which we were speaking about quite last night, actually. And this is horrendous. This was Zoom. Have a guess what button you click to actually cancel your subscription here. This is the last step of canceling your subscription. It's actually that one. No, I don't like savings, for goodness sake. And what it's doing, they're confirm shaming, it's called, when you actually make you feel bad as a customer for getting rid of them. It's such a dodgy tactic, and it just doesn't pay in the long run. And compare that to Spotify, where I cancelled. It has like cancel premium, yes, straight away. You click that, you get a nice survey, which you don't have to do. You've cancelled it already. And then what's lovely about this, it's super clear. And then right at the end, they even give you a playlist to take away, which is beautiful. Like, if you leave us now, you'll take away the biggest part of us, which is a beautiful playlist. And what does this do? This means that I rejoin Zoom in like 4 or 5 months, which I did. But I haven't rejoined Zoom. I rejoined Spotify, but I haven't rejoined Zoom, absolutely. It just leaves that bad taste in your mouth. So these problems are not intentional. Well, most of them anyway. They're not intentional problems. And I see these as opportunities, and so many of them out there, opportunities on the table for brands to hunt and find and take advantage of, and then solve through experimentation, which is what we should be doing. But why are there so many out there? Why are so many businesses at the moment are struggling for growth? They're struggling for their existence, and yet they're still leaving these massive opportunities. And yet these teams have huge digital teams working on optimizing and improving product as they go. And from all our experience of working, we're a consultancy, we work with loads of lovely clients, but the most important thing is that we've discovered actually is that to create an incredible experience and continually improve and innovate and keep above the competition, you need to build your opportunity discovery engine alongside your experimentation engine. You need a team of people to be hunting for all these opportunities all the time and solving them as quickly as you can. Like I was talking about with a few of my friends, what people do instead is they do these huge redesigns, they design everything, and then they almost collect up every user problem and decide they're going to solve them all in one go in 3 years' time with a new redesign. That is not the best approach. You need to solve them as quickly as possible, and your customers will love you for it. So there are a few blockers, a few serious issues stopping teams from discovering all those issues that I showed you earlier. And this is 3 of the biggest ones, which I'm going to cover in this talk. And the great thing is, it isn't, when you can start to address these in all your teams, it'll mean that they can go ahead with the job that's most important to them, which is solving customer problems, but finding them first. So we'll move on to the first one, which is a troubling confirmation bias. And this is going to be interesting because I would really love to know, when I've explained it, who in this room has this bias or have seen this bias happen. So a confirmation bias, just to go over, is when you have the idea first, like a crazy idea or a good idea, and then what you do is that you look for evidence and only believe or only choose the evidence which supports your crazy idea. And it's a very natural thing to do, because we all have ideas in the shower, don't we? But because we want to do things professionally, we're like digital people, we then go looking for the data to support our idea. And this is what happens everywhere. So the confirmation bias we see everywhere is the team has this idea, they then look for insights and learnings to back up their idea. And these days, with all these tools, all these analytics tools, all these UX tools and heat mapping tools, it's actually very easy to find a piece of data that says that you're doing an amazing job, or your idea is the best idea and it's going to change the world. It's very easy to cherry pick your data in that way. And then, of course, you should be A/B testing, or if you can build prototypes and reusability test them, etc., validating the idea. But this is the confirmation bias in this order. As an example, this is the idea I had this morning, and it's a full screen auto-playing video on product details pages. Wow, that would be an amazing idea, wouldn't it? Because we're data-driven, so we know what we're doing, right? So definitely going to prioritize that at the top of our list of things to do this, and it'll probably take a month to do, but yeah, it's a fantastic idea. And when we look at the data, people who watch the product videos that we currently have a conversion rate that is 4 times higher than those that don't. And that sounds like a really great piece of data. Apart from, of course, they have a conversion rate that's higher than everybody else because they're bothering to watch the videos in the first place. It's like, it's reverse causation in action. It's like when people, and I get these bits of data come up all the time. It's like people who click the add to bag button are more likely to buy than people who bounce on your website. Yeah, of course they are. No shit, you know. And then they do the next insight, because you want some qual insight to go along with it. 15% commented that videos were most important to them. That's amazing. But what about the other 85%? But again, it makes a really good reason and a really good bit of, and yes, it's good to have evidence and good to have data, but it's just been used really to get people's ideas through. So teams of people in product teams are having ideas first and then just going to cherry pick some data and saying they're doing things properly. And that's kind of fine, but they're forcing these insights and learnings to the hypothesis. They're kind of trying to grab them and mold them and put them in to support their amazing idea. And the problem is they're then missing out on so many more important things they could be spending their time on. And that's why it's so important for the business. It's not really, it's almost the opportunities lost. All those other things, much more important to the customers they should be working on. That's the incredibly important thing to do. So absolutely, a cool idea, just cherry picking the data to support it. So to raise awareness of this issue, what we had is a competition in Creative CX, which is a lovely team over there, to come up with a name for it, just to kind of raise awareness of this, because I don't think anyone really talks about this confirmation bias, to be honest. So, and Tom won with forcing insights and learnings to hypotheses, which nicely spells filth, which I think is quite appropriate. So now whenever you see this in your company, you can call people a bit filthy, can't you? Which I think goes down well. A check-in here. Does anybody see this in your company? Do you see this happening? Yeah, quite a few hands going up. And I'm sure I've done it before as well, actually, as well. It's just kind of a human nature to do this thing. Right, moving on to blocker 2. Researching and optimizing pages and not user journeys. And what I mean by this is this obsession with just as if everything in e-commerce is about one page only. This is my responsibility. Let's look at this page. In the past, you'd even get some agencies that print out pages and try to optimize them on a printout. It's ridiculous. But the problem is a customer never sees a page in isolation like that. The customer sees a page in a journey. To them, a page doesn't even really exist. It's just a step. It's just like part of what they're doing. It's just communication. So clues that this is the case is when you actually look at the hypotheses that people are having. Right? Are they just saying conversion rate is too low on PDPs, so we're going to change some random stuff to improve conversion rate? There's no mention of a problem at all there, is it? It's not that people can't find something or we've got this feedback. It's just people aren't buying enough. Let's try and make them buy more. You know, that's what it is. Second one's like, by making the button sticky, bigger, animated, flashing, or whatever, more people will click on it. And again, it's just, I see this everywhere. It's just clicking on something. I mean, it's not about clicking on something. It's about helping a user complete their task. And actually, normally, what's good for the user ends up being very good for your business as well. And the third one is just, we mentioned it today already, it's just copying Netflix's XYZ will improve click-through rates. The problem there is that we work with many big brands. We know that they're not always doing things the right way. You might be copying also the losing variation in their A/B test for all you know it. So that's a really big warning sign. But also, it's this focus on click-through rates is a problem too. Everybody can improve click-through rates from any page whatsoever. If you're on a category page and you want to improve click-through rates to the women's section, move it up, make it bigger. And then next week, let's do another test where we move the men's section above it. And 100% win rate for this A/B testing program at the moment. So it's so important. The other clue is when you hear people say the homepage or the PLPs are too far away to affect conversion. This is, again, a bit of a clue that they're only focusing on one thing, and they're worried about it being not connected to the underlying problem. And again, this thing on click rates not being the best primary metric. And what they're not doing is solving any or attempting to solve any customer problems, but probably because they don't know what the customer problems are in the first place. That's why they're not solving it. And therefore, all they can do is randomly spaghetti test, just try out some ideas to solve the problems on that page. Actually, not solve any problems, just to kind of try something out. So they're just kind of stretching for this next idea. And so many teams are doing that. That's what we need to stop. We need to focus on journeys. Another analogy really is they can't see the wood for the trees or can't see the forest for the trees. It's when you're in that world of a product page and you're not doing regular user research across the end-to-end journey, all you can see is within that page, isn't it? You can just see what's within the remit of that very, very tiny part of the customer journey. I wanted to show you an example that kind of explains this and explains the solution as well. And this was I don't know if anyone stayed at a Travelodge before. Any hands up? A few? They used to be cheap, actually. Premier Inn and Travelodge are an interesting two brands. So if you were trying to optimize this one page, this very boring page, which is like the login step after you've selected your room, it's a very boring page, actually, and no one really wants to focus on it because they're all into the fun parts of the site, like searching and selecting the hotel, etc. But if you were just focusing on this one page, then you would look at it and it's got prominent CTAs-ish, there's clearish booking summary, you've got the secure padlock at the top, all those checklists, best practice things. It kind of has it, really. Guest checkout available, low drop-off rate-ish, to be honest. It was pretty low. And you would be kind of stumbling around. So you'd be then thinking, let's change the CTAs, actually. Let's change the color, make it a bit more prominent. Let's maybe just change the content a little bit. But the thing is, the reality is the only way to uncover the biggest opportunities is to do end-to-end research with your actual customers all the way through the funnel, not on one page, all the way through the whole journey. So after conducting opportunity discovery research, we actually found tons of ideas all around the whole site, loads of ideas for A/B testing, and this included user research, data analysis, and ideation. And there was a really serious issue that appeared on the login step here. And I'm going to show you what that is through this video if we get sound.
Ah, right. Right. You do, right. So you have to log in or check in as, well, I don't have an account. You don't have an account to stay with us. It's easier to set one up later. Right? What does that mean then? Log in, check out as a guest. Well, if I don't have an account, how do I log in? And I can't check out as a guest yet. Right, okay, so you have to make an account. Oh, you know what? That'd be a pain in the ass for me. I'm sorry, I can't be doing with that.
What's going on there then? Everybody in this room knows what to do, don't we? I guess. And then in usability testing fashion, what we do, we dig into it more. We eventually let them, we observe, we let them struggle like this, and then we dig in with extra questions.
Ah, right.
And then we get the aha moment later on.
I wouldn't log in. In terms of checkout as a guest, just don't like. I think that what's unusual is the checkout. Why is it not check in?
Right. Okay. So
I want to check in as a guest owner. Not my checkout's at the end of the estate.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So it's really that way.
It's the checkout, isn't it? This is the start of the process. I'm trying to check in.
And we were all like, you guys, we were all like amazed at this. It's so obvious. Now you know something when you go back and think, of course, checkout is really not the best language for a hotel website. But there are so many hotel websites that still use checkout, but because they haven't done their research. It's just a fantastic example. And then there are tons of these aha moments out there along the whole of a journey that you need to go and find and sort out straight away. And there will always be these gaps and these opportunities. And that's why you need to get this engine going. And then we do an A/B test. And then actually we had an amazing uplift on the booking conversion rate, which we rolled out. And it was a massive success. But we've done this time and time and time again. But we would not have discovered it unless we did end-to-end research and end-to-end experimentation. So schedule in these regular discovery research projects to actually feed in and make sure it's always qual and quant as well. We always do usability testing and other surveys, the qual side of things, but we then always quantify this problem with extra data and do it that way around. And then we schedule this in every quarter at least with our clients, and it's working amazingly well for them. It means the majority of ideas on the roadmap are actually focused on real customer problems and real customer statements, rather than just making stuff up or copying. So prioritize problems, not solutions, and then get your teams focused on continually iterating around those solutions. That solution to that problem there, we tested 4 different solutions to it at the same time. It wasn't just one. And that's how we got the best uplift. And then I'm going to cover this very quickly. This is something that I could go into for a long time, but this is the other main blocker. And actually, this is the reason why some of the other aspects, like focusing on only one page, occur, in fact. This is the verticalization of product teams, or siloed product teams. This is a reality of a lot of big companies we work with, where they have a product team for every little part of the journey. And they have a lot of people working on this because digital is so important to them. They also have different departments, maybe to manage the app, and within other product teams working on the app, for example. The key thing is, then, you'll always get more disconnected journeys because of the way that works. I know there's a practical reason for it. There's a practical reason to split up the journey because they can own all the development of that. But it is so critical that these guys work better together. And just to summarize the last points on this, they have they're blinkered to the main problems and also the biggest impactful ideas, actually, because of the way they're structured. So, and the other thing is they're only optimizing for click-through rates half the time. They're almost passing the customer over to the next team. And the metric that matters to them is just this click-through rate, when they should all be aligned to the actual most important metric, which is the end metrics. And then the last thing, this leads to terribly disconnected journeys, actually. I've seen so many of the usability issues, and the previous issues I showed you are due to this absolute problem. So I'm going to leave it there for today, and I've got some more leave-behinds in the slides when we share them. But thank you very much, everybody. Oh, yes, I can do questions. I was scared of you all.
No. Thanks very much for that. I love that confirmation bias. It seems to be within the DNA of every corporate person in the world. And it's only very natural because you just want to push your case or prove that it's going to work. Have you found that on the side of your customers? Have you come across it, and how do you get around it?
All the time. It's actually the biggest problem. Because we're a consultancy and most of our work is helping our customers, our clients, do a better job. A lot of the work these days is helping them to structure their teams and get all their processes sorted out for this. And it's everywhere. It's with almost every client we see. And the problem is they only have a certain amount of money to spend on digital, don't they? But they're always spending money in the wrong places. And one of the reasons is this.
User journeys, and we've heard a lot about talking to the customer today and doing research, whether it's video tracking, usability experiences, whatever the customer has. What is the kind of like cycle? How long does this take? Because it sounds like a long-winded process in order to try and get it right and really figure out what's going on.
That's such a good question. One of the reasons people don't do user research is because the teams have too much work on. They have these roadmaps to deliver, and they can't fit user research in, and it happens in big product teams as well. The key is to have it as a parallel function and actually alongside. So you should do it at least every quarter. But the important thing is to do it with quant as well. So you do your qual research, and then you try to quantify how big these problems are. And then you feed the problems to the product teams, and then the product teams get involved in the ideation to solve them. That's the key thing. So the product teams can carry on with solving these problems and testing everything while a separate parallel team. And that's what we see works best, actually, having that parallel team.
So who should be in charge of this process?
I think it needs to be, you need to sell it into the C-suite that they need to invest in it, because there is investment. But in order to invest in this research, we need to make sure that we're tracking the value that comes out of it. And that's where A/B testing comes in. Because actually, if you tie A/B test ideas, or ideas which are A/B tested, back to the original source effectively, then you can justify spending more on usability testing and user research.
And you mentioned in the description of your speech, you mentioned that often we optimize things which perhaps we don't even need to optimize in the first place. So what happens when, you know, we have an idea in our head, we a hypothesis very often, and then, okay, let's say we're unbiased, we do the research, nothing significant comes out of it. How do we move on from there?
If you've had the idea already, it's about how do you validate that as quickly as possible. So how do you realize and move on? There's nothing wrong with having loads of ideas, but you need to decide really quickly. You need to test it and move on to something else. And then, but if you have this parallel stream of opportunity discovery going on, it at least means you won't miss out on all the other stuff I showed earlier. It's the missing out on these opportunities, which is the biggest problem.
Okay, any questions from our audience? No? One up there.
There is one there, right?
Yeah, but please, go ahead.
No, please, go ahead. Should I? Okay. Thank you, Chris, for the great presentation. I would like to ask you, given that I'm coming from a customer experience background as well, what metrics do you use for the improvements that you put in the customer journey, apart of the short-term ones, like NPS or CSAT rates? How do you count like the impact that you put in the improvisation in the customer journey?
That's a really good question. But actually, it's the end of the journey. It is actually, conversion rate is one of the best metrics, in fact, even though people sometimes sideline UX as if it's something fluffy over here. It's the...
For me, UX and CX coming together.
Yeah. It's actually completion of the journey, which is conversion rate, is one of the most important metrics. It gets more complicated when we work on more retention side of things, when we also track return rates for e-commerce, because that's a massive thing. So then we have to tie that back in. And actually, it is possible to improve conversion rates and lose money, because if you increase return rates, actually you're losing money for every one of those conversions. But it is, I don't believe it. NPS has all kinds of problems, but CSAT is a little bit better. So it is quite good to tie that in as well. And you can do that by integrating into your A/B test for CSAT scores.
Thank you so much.
And we had another question up there.
Hi, thank you very much for the very interesting presentation. I have one question regarding the third part. What would you suggest to a large organization in order to avoid siloing the product teams, like verticalizing the whole end-to-end process?
I think the key thing is sometimes you have to verticalize just because they manage parts of the web, so manage the app, for example. But the counter thing is actually, if you have a parallel stream of end-to-end user research, they have to get involved. It joins up the journeys nicely. And then as we build a lot of experimentation center of excellences for teams, then you just need to be very good at making sure the teams collaborate really well and that they do more than single-page A/B tests. We're always advocating do multi-page, multi-step A/B tests, not always a single page. And if they do a multi-page test, a journey-styled test, then they have to collaborate with the other teams it crosses over with. The other thing you need to get right is the visibility of experiments. So you need to work on your system so everybody can see what experiment is live at any one point. Does that help?
Yeah, very much. Thank you.
Okay, Chris, thank you very much. And I love the sticker example.